Right. And I gather that Consul General Oliver Mair has to leave us soon. So can we bring in Consul General Mair here? Consul General Mair, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
You're on mute, CG Mair. Please unmute your mic and talk with us. Okay, there we go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mr. Mair. Please give us a sense of how the areas, the matters, the issues that the Consul General in Miami, Florida has had to be dealing with, even in this time of restrictions and related issues.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank the young people for putting this forum together. I want to thank the team at the consulate for the hard work, and the members of the community. We have been dealing a lot with over 100 H-2B workers. I don't want to use the word stranded, but persons who are not able to, travel to Jamaica because of the border closure. We have been working very closely with them. Particularly with the employers at the first instance to, speak to them about extending the rent-free period. That has been working well, but also meeting with them in a physically distancing stance and meeting with these individuals. We've been providing support. I want to thank Grace Kennedy. I want to thank the leadership here on the ground. For example, Vice Mayor Chambers from Miramar, he has come forward with quite a bit of products. So we have been reaching out in a very practical way to many of the hotel workers that have been stranded within the region, Panama City, in Georgia, certainly and here in Miami. And we also want to acknowledge our farmers who have been providing fresh callaloo as well. So they've been getting quite a bit of products. Those that have reached out to us, we are making contact with them and seeing on a case-by-case Durban how we can assist them. Our phone lines have been ringing right throughout the day from morning to evening. But we appreciate that at least there's an opportunity to serve and to reach out. I also want to thank Alan Cunningham, Dr. Cunningham, for being there with us. I mean, each time we go out on the road, he's there with us, and I thank him for the support. I also want to thank persons from the community that have leveraged their support, similar to in New York with mental health. I mean, we have, first of all, Father Ward, Judge Hebbins, who have opened their lines for prayer. And some of the stranded workers have already, our Jamaican nationals here waiting for the doors to open, have already started utilizing that service of praying with our pastors. We have a clinical psychologist here. We have a life coach. So from supporting persons during this time, as well as our own phone lines. I mean, we get a number of calls. I personally take any call at this time, and we have the consulate. We have at least 7 team members who answer the call lines, as well as text messaging. We have set up 4 text lines for persons to text in their concerns and have a response from an officer. In addition to that, persons were able to book a time to have an officer call them back. So, we have 15-minute slots where persons can have a specific agent call them and just answer any of their concerns. Call volumes can rise at any particular time. So I've made this available for them as well. So that is it in a nutshell. I want to thank, there's so many people to thank. This is really a team effort. And I just want to remind everybody listening here on the call that during this time of uncertainty is an opportunity for each of us to create something new. Many times we're afraid of the unknown, But we should never, one thing I learned in a particular course that I did, never waste a crisis. Yes, there's a crisis here. We may be looking on just the negative side, but there are opportunities lurking for each of us. And we must create an empowering narrative for ourselves and for our Jamaican community as we move ahead during this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamaica's Consul General in Miami, Florida, Oliver Mair. Let's welcome the Mayor of Broward County, Dale Holness. Good afternoon to you, Mayor Holness. How are you?
Mayor Holness, you're on mute again.
Mayor
Yes.
Holness,
There we go.
there you are. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here on this Jamaican American Youth Alliance Town Hall. Can you give us a sense of the approach that you've taken in Broward County, Florida, and the nature and extent of the role that young people have played in helping to mobilize the entire county to fight COVID-19?
So let me thank the young people for putting this together, and of course to a great Consul General Mair, who is always everywhere. They call me Dale everywhere, but he's as much everywhere as I am, and even sometimes more so than I am. Thanks for the service that he's offering to us here in South Florida. So within our organization, within my office, I'm probably one of the only electeds in the county commission that actually accept interns. So I have a large number of interns. Part of what we're doing is disseminating information, which is critical at this point in time. In fact, through their efforts, we are able to distribute informational packets to about 300 churches over the past weekend. And knowing that many churches are virtual, they still can make the announcement as to what's available to the public for help. So a big part of what we have to realize is this pandemic is a health crisis, but beyond that, it's creating an economic devastation on many families, especially those who don't earn a lot of money to begin with. So a big part of what we've been looking to do is see how we can get that information out to them. We've set up certain lines. We have a phone line available for COVID-19 in Broward County, and that's 954-357-9500. We're posting on our website on a constant basis, updated information. And there are two sites that I want to let the public know about. And that's broward.org/coronavirus. And that gives you an update on pretty much everything that's going on with the virus. But there's another site that's more specialized for small business who at this point in time are really feeling the brunt of this economic devastation that's hitting us here in Broward County and around the world. And that is broward.org/econdev, broward.org/econ, ECONDEV. We give information out there. Now, part of what I would like for everyone to avail themselves to is the loan programs that are available if they're in small businesses. And that's a big part of what I push for as a part of my efforts in terms of an elected official, is how we grow the economy and reach businesses, especially small ones, minority women-owned businesses, to grow and develop. Florida has a loan program called Florida Disaster Loan Program. And you can go to floridadisasterloan.org and get that information. We had a webinar this week for small businesses, and that's at sba.gov. The webinar is at the browardcounty.org/econdev site. But to apply for loans, you go to sba.gov. There are loan programs available there also for those who are in need of loan. From the standpoint of those who are unemployed and need to get unemployment compensation or some help there, floridajobs.org is another website that they can go to get some assistance. And I've got a lot of members of the clergy ask whether or not the CARES program benefits them. And yes, the CARES program benefit them similar to how it benefits other nonprofits and small businesses.
Thank you, Mayor Holness, for that very, very valuable information. Thank you for all those links. I'm sure many young people will be hitting up those sites to get all that. So thank you, Mayor Holness, for your time. Would you like for us to go to Alan Cunningham from the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council?
Sure, let's do that. Thank you, Mayor Holness. Let's bring in Dr. Alan Cunningham, the Global Jamaica Diaspora representative for the Southeast USA. Dr. Cunningham, how are you?
Dr.
I
Cunningham?
know he was having a bit of technical difficulty. We're on text together, but I know that Miss Shauna Chin from the West is available.
Well, let's welcome Shauna Chin, the Global Jamaica Diaspora representative in the Midwest United States. Welcome, Shauna Chin. How are you?
I'm good, Durban. Always good speaking to you.
Same here. How are things in the Midwest, especially in the Jamaican community?
So I think since youth globally will be able to watch this, since it's an online platform, I just wanted to take the time as Vice Chair for the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council to emphasize that the members who are currently present today are speaking just for the United States and or specific regions, but know that your Global Jamaica Diaspora Council representative in your region is working diligently with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade to support them regarding things that are happening in your region. Now, in order to streamline information in an environment where multiple platforms are sharing sometimes conflicting information, as well as we're in an era where fake news is at an all-time high. So in order to streamline information, I want to emphasize to the youth that the only reliable source of information that you can count on for sure and that you need to depend on as far as it relates to diaspora matters and the COVID-19 pandemic is the Ministry of Health and Wellness sites and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And as well as if you are having a specific concern related to your particular region, your heads of missions is where we want you primarily to streamline and go directly for assistance. Your heads of missions being your high commissioners, your ambassadors, the consul generals, and the honorary consul generals. I know in the United States specifically, our head of mission, the United States Embassy in Washington, that website is embassyofjamaica.org. And in Los Angeles, it is Jamaican Consulate in LA.org. And so what I would emphasize for the youth in our region, but in all the regions, is to make sure that you are in contact with your head of mission, make sure that you are on that mailing list so that whenever they contact, I know Consul General Wilson from New York was just on, and one of the things she talked about was new things that are coming up in her region just as near as tomorrow. So if you are on the mailing lists for your heads of missions, then they're able to immediately disseminate information to you. Right? Specifically, as it relates to LA, as you asked me, we have a very high population of undocumented nationals, and we have a high population of DACA recipients. So what the head of mission here, who is newly appointed and she has had to hit the ground running, or honorary consul Joy Laws and honorary consul emeritus Lorna Johnson, what we have been doing is emphasizing to our personnel here, our nationals and our youth here in Los Angeles, that if you are in the unfortunate circumstance where you are a DACA recipient or you are a undocumented national, you do have laws here that protect you should you require COVID testing and assessment and treatment that you are able to present to the hospital, and there are laws that protect you in order to be treated. So not to stay at home and be frightened about what will happen to you. And so that's what we're doing, disseminating information, partnering our youth with the local organizations here that are providing food and shelter. That's what we are doing here on the West to fight COVID.
Thank you for that update from the Midwest. Can we bring Tiffany into the mix? I know she's busy behind the scenes as well. I know you're Vice President of the Jamaican American Youth Alliance. Can you give us a sense of the general mood among the young people with whom you've been interacting since the outbreak of COVID-19 and the extent to which they've been coping?
Absolutely. I would have to say that the mood is somber. There are people who are being furloughed. There are people who are having job offers rescinded. There are people who don't know what the future looks like. So the way that people, that my friends, colleagues, my community has been coping with this is establish a community, making sure that they're being vocal and sharing whatever concerns that they have. So this is actually the impetus and the genesis of why we wanted to put this together, to make sure that within that community, we can connect the leaders and make sure that we connect that bridge and address any of the questions that people might have, whether it's education, whether it's foreign affairs, whether it's just the future of when can I go back home to Jamaica? When can I go see my grandma? You know, when can I go see my auntie? So at the end of the day, when we're looking at this specifically with Jaya, we want to be that, we don't want to be that single source of truth, but we do want to be that connector. We want to build that bridge and make sure that we provide that information to the leaders that we, between the leaders that we have here and the general public, specifically aiming towards the young people. So one of the things that the questions we're looking at, I'm not sure if we want to go into questions right now, but one of the questions that has been reoccurring is, what are the main challenges that each one of you guys are facing? And then how do we then support you in mitigating those challenges? So once we go back to the audience, I know we do have the gleaner here, so we'll go ahead and move it over to them so they can go ahead and ask their question. But that would probably be summarizes the questions that we have from the audience.
Yes, much. We've heard about the CARES program, Mair, Holness. Is there any component that speaks to the mental health of the people of Broward County in coping with COVID-19?
There was no direct funding there, but we've gotten some additional funding that is coming our way. We have several entities that we support that we have fund that will be available for the people of Broward County. Again, if they go to Broward.org/coronavirus, those resources will be available for them there. We have an ongoing support system for mental health in Broward County, including our BARC, or Broward Addiction Recovery Center, that does a tremendous amount of help there also. And we support other nonprofits that provide that kind of service.
Thank you. And Dr. Dunkley, in your work as an educator, you would have an appreciation for the kind of flexibility that is necessary now to ensure that our children don't fall behind, or young people don't fall behind. What is your impression of how we're doing in keeping our young people engaged as opposed to leaving them up to their own devices?
That's an excellent question. I think in terms of our K-12, we are implementing the engagement of our young people in very, I would say, there is a huge inequity in terms of access to technology to keep them connected to certainly teaching and learning. In terms of our college young people, we find that many of them have still maintained the structure around logging into their online classes. I know that the young adults that we certainly support here within the Northeast Diaspora think tank, we check in on them just to make sure that they're attending classes, completing assignments. There was one young person who didn't have a tablet, and the school did not make provision for her to have a tablet. She was using her phone. So we had a very generous member who wishes to remain anonymous, who was able to meet that need. So I think that our young adults have maintained a level of discipline where they understand that they still need to maintain that educational structure to engage in teaching and learning while taking care of their social and emotional health.
Okay, Jarvan, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Everyone?
He's probably doing commercials.
Okay, understood. So going back to Jeremiah before he had to leave, I'm unsure. Did Jeremiah leave already?
He did.
Okay, yes. He had to.
No, I didn't leave yet. I have to leave pretty soon because I have a meeting with the ambassador.
Okay, so I'm asking for press contacts on the call. Do you have any questions for Mr. Jeremiah Knight before he has to depart?
Hello.
Any questions for the U.S. Embassy at this time? If not, we'll just continue moving. Okay, I don't see any questions, Tiffany.
No questions.
Okay.
Hello.
So,
All right, thank you for your time and thanks for the opportunity to share. Goodbye.
thank you for hopping on this call with us, Jeremiah. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to accommodate young people. Best of luck with your meeting with Ambassador.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so going back to...
Dr. Cunningham has been able to join us, Janine.
Oh, finally, okay.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
First of all, sorry for the technical difficulties that I was facing. My wife assisted me through getting everything sorted out. So obviously I can't do it, take it over to my wife. But I am very happy to be here. It's a privilege for me to be here.
We are very glad to have you. Thank you for taking time to see today.
Absolutely. And we are excited and we are working in concert with the Consul General of Miami to assist our youth in terms of the terrible effects of this COVID-19 pandemic. We are also providing information on immigration matters as it relates to visa expiration and trying to inform the general public that the channels through which they could go through, renew their visas, and not to make it just expire because it might prove a little difficult at that time. We are also through the channels of the Jamaican Men of Florida and the Jamaica Diaspora, Southern USA, we are trying to organize assistance for the youth in particular. And we are in the process where we're going to be doing a campaign starting next week, trying to find those organizations that really need our assistance. But in terms of everything else, we are trying to fund the Jamaica Diaspora Scholarship Foundation to assist students who are here and stranded. We are particularly pleased with the job done by Dr. Dunkley from the Northeast, and we are trying to take a page from her book so that we can accomplish a similar goal. So pretty much that's what we're doing.
Thank you for that update, Dr. Cunningham. So you mentioned your work with CG Mair and the fact that you're trying to gain some assistance for this fund. Could you tell young person on this call, or even if someone older is tuning in, how is it exactly that they can support you in this moment? Where can they go to assist you in your mission?
Both organizations, in fact, all three organizations are pretty new, and that's why we needed an additional week to give that information for. In fact, we're in the process right now of starting our bank account with all three organizations and trying to get things straightened out so that next week we could start our actual campaign. So we haven't actually started yet getting our bank account, but we are working on it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that information. Okay, so we are going to circle back to Durban. I think he's back on now.
Yes, I was just wondering if Jeremiah Knight is still there.
No, he had to leave because he has a meeting with Ambassador.
Okay, all right. So now let's continue the discussion. We perhaps could, I don't know if there are any members of the media who are online, apart from me, who have questions that they'd like to put to our panelists. Please feel free.
From the Jamaica Gleaner, I don't know if they have any questions.
The representative from the Gleaner, do you have a question?
They're on mute.
Oh, they're on.
Yes.
Yes. Let's try again. Glena, are you there? No. Okay. Let's in the meantime.
I'm entering.
Oh, we have
Caribbean Life News.
We have a representative from Caribbean Life News, journalist Tangerine Clarke. You have some questions? Would like to go ahead?
Well, I was gonna step on to the when the new panel was here, the second panel with Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. And I wanted to just ask a few questions that would be directly within the diaspora, within her community, because, you know, a lot of young people, in the long run, we need to have or to set up, I should say, some sort of call center for people who are, you know, going to be affected deeply by this virus, this coronavirus. They want to ask questions. And is there anyone or some sort of counseling that they could get through such a medium?
I think so. Thanks for that question, Janine. I know that certainly C.G. Wilson had to leave early. C.G. Wilson from the Consul from New York did state that the consulates across the United States will implement a contact center. And so this is for any Jamaican, including certainly our young people who can certainly reach out for assistance, and that they anticipate that this contact and these contact centers will launch quite soon, as early as this week. That is my understanding. I do just want to also highlight that certainly the Northeast Diaspora think tank has continued to partner very closely with the consulate, and I wanted to share that website and the phone number for counseling services and supports for students and adults who may need it, especially around that emotional health and grief piece. And this is in partnership with Lorraine Smith, who is a nationally certified social worker and actually has a company that specializes in high need, high impact supports. Again, you can call us, and this is all free, at 609-373-9800, 609-373-9800. It's important to communicate that we understand the culture that oftentimes within our communities, we are hesitant to reach out for counseling or emotional support. And so these are individuals who look like us, who sound like us, and they know the culture. And just to share again, the Consul General's phone number for New York is 212-935-9000, 212-935-9000, and they can visit the Consul's website to make contact.
So this would be for international. Is this international that people can call into these numbers, or is just within the diaspora or in Jamaica?
So these numbers serve New York. The counseling number that we have received calls from across the United States, and even from today, we had a gentleman call us from Trinidad, and one who was Guyanese, and he was like, but you guys don't sound Jamaican. So when we started to speak Patois, he said, oh, no, you sound Jamaican. So really, it's a counseling service that is open. So the numbers are accessible within the United States. If you're accessing the numbers from out the United States, and we've had some Jamaican families who have called us concerned about their relatives here, then you will need to ensure that you have the credit to call the number.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
May I just add one thing, Dervin? I just wanted to reiterate to the journalist who asked the question that is the reason streamlining the information is so important. So whether you are out of state, whichever region you're in, your head of mission here in the United States, it's embassyofjamaica.org, and they will have the information regarding what is available in each individual state within the United States. And that will be the same for your region, wherever you are globally, wherever your head of mission is, as well as the Ministry of Health and Wellness websites and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade sites. I know that specific question on the visa extension, I know Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith did emphasize that as well. I'm just not sure what that site is, but I know they do have an extension for persons who are nearing their visa ending, that they can go ahead and provide for extension, as well as individually at the local consulates. I know they do have a pretty big outreach to the nationals. So get on those mailing lists as much as possible for your consulates and your heads of missions.
So what are some of the other websites that people can go to, like youth can go to for information if they, can call the number? Are there a couple of websites where all of this information is going to be available?
So
Tiffany?
Yeah, so I was actually just going to mention that we're going to work with all the leaders here to collect all this information and post it on the JAIA site, essentially create some sort of zip document so it can be easily shared, whether it's PDF or any other type of format. So if you do have any questions, definitely hit us up at info@jaya.network if you have any type of questions, so that we're also compiling an FAQ document as well. So I hope that takes off a lot of the pressure in terms of reciting everything, but we are compiling that information to disseminate. So thank you.
I should say, I should apologize. I didn't, in my opening statement, I should have said I wanted to congratulate and thank Janine for this amazing initiative. And if we can give her a round of applause, that would be fantastic. Yes. Thank you so much, Janine. This girl is brilliant. And I met Janine last year. Was it last year, Janine, at the Diaspora conference in Jamaica?
Yeah, that was it in June last year.
June last year, yeah. I was quite impressed. So I wanted to find out also, what are some of the programs that you guys are going to put in place to engage the youth, not only in the diaspora, but in Jamaica going forward?
Janine?
What are some of the plans that are being put in place to engage the youth going forward? Well, sorry, I was on mute before, but right now, JAIA is working on a string of events. Well, obviously once COVID is over, but we are looking at even some social events coming up, like some picnics in New York. We've been looking at getting Governor's Island and, having like a nice little jerk bar. In
this age of social distancing, Janine?
After COVID.
Oh, you did say after. Okay.
I did say after. Hello, don't pull a journalist on me now. But after COVID, we're looking at quite a few social events. And I think throughout the course of this period, we're going to continue these kind of online events. As you can see, connectivity is an issue. Hopefully we'll work out some of those bugs on our second time around. So I apologize to viewers so far. This is our first go at it, so please bear with us. But we are looking at even having some more events garnered towards the census, which is currently taking place in the US. That should happen at the end of this month. So we're currently planning that event as well. And, continuing to support various different diaspora groups that was already established by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. We wish to support them in their mission. And we wish to also support other groups that, reach out to us. So if you head over to our social media platforms at jaya.network and you have ideas for us, we are very receptive to them, and we're always looking for a new membership. You can also head to www.jaya.network to really get plugged in and stay in tune with us. And we want more young people, So this panel, like I said, was to really get questions answered that young people have. So we are very grateful that all of you on this panel have decided to come forward and, help us get those initial answers that young people really need. So thank you. I'm sorry, Durban, your sound is very low at the moment. Nope, we are not hearing you at all. For the meantime, Tiffany,
there we go. Sorry about that. No, I noticed that Mayor Holness wanted to speak. Yeah. Please go ahead, Mayor Holness.
Okay.
If I may offer a suggestion that I discovered going to Israel last year on a trade mission. They have a program that actually engage young people from the diaspora within a certain age range, where the government actually works with industries in Israel, especially the hospitality industry, hotels, to bring those children from the diaspora to Israel so that they can learn more about their heritage of Israel at a very low cost. And most Israeli parents here try to get their kids to go back to go to Israel, not go back, because many of them weren't born there, most of them weren't. That might be some way for us to keep the young people from Jamaica connected, especially those who weren't born there. I'm concerned that my children, my grandchildren won't be as connected as I am. And the support that we give to Jamaica from the diaspora, especially remittance and other engagements, will not be there a few years from now. So I'm grateful that young people like you, Janine, are taking the leadership role to really engage the youth in this country and around the world to be engaged with Jamaica.
Thank you, Mair Holness. Devon, we cannot hear you at the moment. Your sound is low again.
I'm saying we join you in commending. It's having to switch between muting and unmuting. Sorry about that. It is. Right. Let's go to a break on Power 106, but let's stay with the virtual town hall here. And I wanted to share a couple of questions.
Devon, your mic is activated.
I'm saying I didn't realize there are about 53 messages.
Oh, okay.
53 messages that have come in on my Facebook page, and I wanted to share a couple of the questions, if that is okay. In fact, we're going to do that right now. I saw a question from Dr. Doe, one of our regular listeners in Skokie, Illinois, and she says, who is the representative for the Midwest? Can that person make a statement on what is happening in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, etc.? Listeners.
I am the representative for the West and Midwest region, and it's in an environment where there's so much information and there is so many people chiming in. It's very important for the global diaspora representatives to be observant, but at the same time be very supportive to our ministry. So at this time, I will be able to contact our ministry and be able to indicate to them that the members in the West are seeking a specific address. And so that way she can be able to advise on what is the best protocol to move forward.
I noticed Mr. Gregg Bishop is on the panel presently. Hi, Gregg, how are you? It's Tangerine Clarke. I'm at Caribbean Life News. How is your organization working to help young people who own businesses in the diaspora? What are you doing to help them during this time?
Thanks for inviting me. And, first of all, in New York City, we are, as everywhere, we're facing unprecedented times with COVID-19. For those who don't know, there is a local agency here in New York City called Small Business Services, and I'm responsible for leading that agency. And our job is to help businesses start, expand, and operate. And with this pandemic, one of the first things that we did was create a local program where we had grants available for businesses that were looking to hold on to their employees. And also we created a loan program. But a week later, our entire world was changed and we had to work rapidly to retool our programs to work closely with the federal response. No municipality across the United States have the balance sheet to really address the enormous need that our small businesses have. So for individuals who, especially younger people, one of the things that we've been doing is really, we provide a lot of technical assistance. But one of the things that we're seeing is that, some of, entrepreneurs may not have understand the particulars of running a business. They commingled accounts. So they didn't have a business account. They, all their money was going into their personal account. So we are working right now to address what we know will be gaps where individuals who maybe had a personal account may not have been able to participate in the federal Paycheck Protection Program and or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So we are looking at our immigrant communities. We're looking at, sole proprietors, et cetera, and understanding where there are gaps, and we'll continue to build out programs to help those individuals. I was glad to hear the question earlier. We too are planning, to figure out different ways to reach out to the communities. We have put all our information online. So we have webinars available, and we will soon introduce webinars on how to actually apply for the federal programs and how to actually get capital, because that's the main thing that most businesses will need through this pandemic. And of course, we are working right now to figure out what a restart looks like, because it's not going to be everyone just returning back to normal. There's going to be a new normal. We have to make sure that if you don't have an online presence, if you don't know how to, attract customers online, you should be thinking about that right now. And we have resources available online for free.
Just to clarify to where to find those free resources, you're talking about your website, www.sba.gov, right?
Thanks for that question. So we're the local version of the Federal Small Business Administration. So for us, if you're looking for resources here in New York City, you should go to nyc.gov/COVID-19 if it's specifically for any help as you are trying to run your business during this pandemic. But if you want to find out about general business help that we provide, then you can go to nyc.gov/SBS. It's important if you are going to our website, we do have links to the Federal Small Business Administration for all 4 of their programs. And we have information on how you can actually, either apply through a lender or through the SBA, and we can provide assistance in doing that.
Beautiful. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Bishop. Gervon, you have something you want to bring up? You are muted again. Okay, there we go.
I'm saying it looks like we're just about ready again for panel number 2, business, investment, and the economy.
Oh, I kicked it off.
Gregg.
So thank you very much, Gregg Bishop, for kicking off the discussion. Let's use the opportunity to, well, obviously, Gregg Bishop is Commissioner of New York City Department of Small Business. Mm-hmm. We also have joining us, is that the Minister, Jamaica's Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, the Honourable Floyd Green? Welcome. And we are seeing as well David Mullings, CEO at Mahoe Capital Partners. Welcome, Mr. Mullings.
Thank you for having me.
Right, and somewhere in the wings we have Dominic Christopher, CEO at a company called Dade Abroad.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much. All right, so now, since we have gotten the ball rolling, the question is, based on where the world is right now, how should those of us who are potential investors, business owners, whether we are small, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, whatever the situation, what should be the approach at this point? We know that there are varying degrees of impact across the globe. But in general terms, taking into account that there are varying degrees in terms of the state of COVID-19 globally, what should be the approach, David Mullings, from those of us who are investors, those of us who are business people, or those of us who are entrepreneurs, or simply those of us who want to make things happen one way or another, notwithstanding the implications of COVID-19?
Well, I appreciate that question, Dervon. That is definitely a deep one, and I want to acknowledge Stephen Whittingham, Chief Operating Officer of Grace Kennedy, is on the call, and I think he can also answer part of that and give us some insight from what they're doing. But from my perspective, obviously Blue Mahoe Capital is investing mainly in the public markets in the Caribbean, mainly in Jamaica, and we have some private deals as well. And what I have said to some of the companies we're talking to, I sit on the board, I'm the chairman of Ingenuity Technologies, for example, based in Jamaica, focuses on digital transformation for firms. All companies need to think even harder about using this opportunity, not to reset your business, but to think about what comes after this. We know that the digital economy was already here. The fourth industrial revolution was already here. And we expected over the next 8 years, you'd see transformation in Jamaica, just like we've slowly seen in the US. But this is using, allowing remote work. This is being able to go into the cloud so you can store software there and help your business become more efficient. This now has forced us to do it overnight. And I think that as an entrepreneur, if you are just starting out, you need to figure out how can you help companies to make that transition. So if you're a young person, for example, the odds are you are more digitally skilled at this point. There are a whole lot of companies right now trying to figure out how to do online video, how to do Slack, how do they manage remote work with their team, how do they leverage social media. Some of them don't have good websites or have no website. So I think that you need to look at those as opportunities, ensure that your business now is online. There was another individual that I've been talking to that raised a good point. She ran a physical location. This is actually a Jamaican that has a place in Africa. And she was doing is a hairdresser salon. So I reached out to her to say, hey, just checking on how you're doing. Certainly with things being shut down, how are you managing with a physical location? And she said, well, the location is closed, but thankfully, she had been also selling products. She had invented some of her own products, research and development. She had gotten a supply out of China. And so she was still able to sell. She was taking orders on Instagram, taking orders on Twitter, taking orders on her website. So because her business had a second avenue of income and not just a services business, she's okay. Versus I'm mentoring another individual in Jamaica that has a hairdressing business but had no other source of income. So now she's had the business basically dried up. So this is an opportunity to reshape your lines of business. And I think certainly it's a good opportunity to look at where you see growth, right? This is a short-term demand shock. In the next 2 years, you're going to see a lot more opportunities if you can prepare yourself. And if a lot of great businesses started during recessions, whether it's Microsoft, Apple, and so on, don't get down, but build a strong network. If you don't have mentors to reach out to, please go and find mentors now. If you haven't been reading any books about scaling your business in the digital world, reach out to them and leverage those resources.
And since you referenced Stephen Whittingham, thank you very much, David Mullings. Stephen Whittingham, Chief Operating Officer at Grace Kennedy Financial Group. What lessons have emerged in your eyes, and if you want to expand that to the eyes of the team at Grace Kennedy Group, the lessons that have so far been emerging from this COVID-19 crisis, and how is Grace Kennedy Group looking to convert this crisis into opportunity going forward, learning from those lessons?
Well, Dorvan, thanks for the question, and thanks to everyone for having me on. The COVID-19 pandemic, we've used the term unprecedented so many times. It's been unprecedented, right? But really, the level of global economic disruption is really something that the world has never seen. I think it's even more than World War II, from what I can read. But this experience it really has shown us what at the forefront is important to us as a company. And really that is the health and well-being of our customers, our employees, and their families. And the first thing is that when we recognized that there was a problem, we had to all huddle and come together to try and ensure that their well-being was taken care of. And we've had all of these business continuity protocols that we had in place about what would happen in the event of a natural disaster. And it is these programs that we had, these in-depth programs that have helped keep our business afloat and actually doing pretty well under the circumstances, right? But to give you an example, Grace Kennedy, we've had to adapt. We've had to we've had work from home programs from before, but we've now had to transition that to being the primary way for our employees to work, as there've been reduced levels of commercial activity based on the governmental actions that have been taken. We've also had to find and continue to enhance our digital solutions that we offer to our customers, because that's been the critical way for us to work with them and to offer them the services that they need. And we've had to find ways to evolve the way that we deliver our products and services. And I think all of that, when you put it all together, really has shown the value for us as a company of the diversification of our business. As a conglomerate, Grace Kennedy has a foods business and a financial services business. Our food business has been a critical service to Jamaicans in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, through all the places where we distribute our products in the United States. Social media, if you look on it, it talks about everywhere about how happy people are to have access to Grace products wherever they are at this point in time, and that just really shows the value of the connection that we have with our customers. You talk about the geographic diversity. Our businesses in the UK, our businesses in Canada, all across the Caribbean. This has been a challenging time for all of those regions, but we still have had to find ways through the new ways of working. This kind of forum where we're having digital press conferences. Is this your first one, Durban? It certainly is mine. So, we've had to learn to adapt, and I think the world will forever change after this experience.
No question about that. The world will forever change. The world is changing. Let's bring in the Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honourable Floyd Green. In what respects would you say, Floyd Green, that Jamaica is still open for business?
Thank you, Durban, and let me thank the organizers. I think this is a really great initiative, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I commend all your panelists for participating. I think some good information has been shared earlier, and you've clearly gone for some of the best right across various industries. So happy to be a part of it. Jamaica is still firmly open for business, even with our emphasis and priority on keeping our citizens safe, on ensuring that we take decisions that are in the best interest of the health of our nationals. We have done so while ensuring that business can continue, and especially in relation to our ports. Our ports have not closed, our ports have been deemed essential services, and we are still getting things coming in, and we're still also looking at prioritizing exports and having our exporters continue to be able to send out that product. As you would have heard, a lot of people, especially in the diaspora, now look to be able to get Jamaican products, especially in this difficult time period. It helps them in feeling closer to home and in reassuring them that everything will be all right. And we want to ensure that the products can get out and that our manufacturers or exporters are able to get out that product. So that continues. Clearly, there have been industries that have scaled down. Clearly, there have been industries that have been directly impacted negatively, like our tourism industry. But again, I think as most people have said, what we have been saying to our industries is to use this time to strengthen your systems, use this time to research, to look at areas in which you can improve, use this time to really strengthen your employees, your employee base. A lot of online training, a lot of online courses are happening, and we have been reaching out especially to our MSMEs to say, use this time to do things that you probably would not have been able to do when your businesses would progress normally. So, using our business development arm, the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC, we've started online sessions. In fact, we started with our creative industries. Again, a number of them are impacted negatively based on what's happening with COVID-19, the inability to travel. But we've started every Thursday now, we have a session working with them, looking at things like how can you digitize your creative talent? How can you ensure that you're using the internet to generate income? We now have weekly webinars for our MSMEs, looking now at marketing. We're looking at things like intellectual property. So not only are we still open for business in a real way, we're also looking to strengthen businesses during this time so that when we come out of this crisis, we come out better than we went in.
A quick question, Minister Floyd. You mentioned that you're having weekly webinars. So I'm a young entrepreneur. If I want to watch these webinars, where exactly do I go to access them?
All right. So for those in the creative industry, we have our series on Thursdays. We call it JBDC in Concert. You can type in the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. Just type that into Google, and you'll see our various platforms. You can go on our website. I'll pull it up for you before we leave. But you can also follow our social media pages. We normally stream live across all our platforms, whether Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or our website. Just type in Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC. Our webinars happen on Tuesday. We would have just started this Tuesday. We're first on marketing essentials. And we also look for your feedback in terms of some of the things that you will want to see us talk about, us discuss. So at the Jamaica Business Development Corporation.
Thank you.
Very much. Curious to thank you, Minister. Please stay with us.
A little bit. Could you repeat that question?
I was just saying we have a few more questions for the minister, but just before we get back to the minister, thought we'd perhaps bring in Dominic Christopher right now, CEO at Dade Abroad, because there's a feeling that micro and small enterprises tend to be, not in all cases, but tend to be more flexible. They tend to be able to roll with the punches as opposed to the bigger enterprises. Would you agree with that, Dominic Christopher? And if so, to what extent have you been rolling with the punches as CEO at Dade Abroad?
Hi, Dervin. Thanks for having me. I do agree, and having the Commissioner of Small Business for New York on the panel, we have been working with the City of New York as to find ways as to how we can have Caribbean businesses benefit in the diaspora. To get a quick preview of Dade Abroad is a technology. Hello?
Yeah, Dominic, your internet connection was unstable just now.
Okay, can you hear me better?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Dade Abroad is a technology platform that creates wealth and cultural awareness for the Caribbean community. In terms of wealth during this pandemic, we have a platform that we launched, which is called Bickle. Most people in the Caribbean know Bickle as food. Bickle is a food delivery platform which will allow restaurant employees who are displaced by the pandemic to do stuff similar to Uber Eats, like food delivery. So they will become the first preference as to who the restaurant will allow to do the delivery, instead of going to other platforms outside of the diaspora, for example, Uber Eats and DoorDash. And in terms of being a community platform, we're also working with the restaurants where they can offer dinner to Caribbean families who are affected. So that's one of the main projects we're working at the moment at Dade Abroad. Hopefully soon we get back to normal life where we can now start promoting different types of businesses in the diaspora. And lastly, we have a platform, we run an internship program. The businesses that we have on the platform, we offer internships to Caribbean students who are enrolled in college. So it depends on your major, you can come to Dade Abroad and we will connect you, give an internship, mentoring program with our businesses that relates to your studies.
Thank you very much, Dominic Christopher. Gregg Bishop, if we could come back to you, Commissioner, Small Business Administration in New York City, with respect to the phases of the funding that is being provided in a scenario where people are having to deal with their own health and the health and well-being of their family members, etc., who may or may not have time to even pay attention to their business, or are having a difficulty trying to deal with the family issues, the health issues and trying to keep their business afloat at the same time. What is your recommendation in such a scenario?
So, and that's a great question. One of the challenges with this pandemic is that a lot of business owners are here and first come, first serve. When we launched our loan program, we got about 16,000 applications, more than the fund that we have can actually meet the demand. So I know a lot of folks are anxious. I will say that every government, the United States, worldwide, we need to start thinking in terms of long-term. I'm positive that the United States will have an additional stimulus, probably, throughout the rest of the year, because in the United States, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. In New York City alone, small businesses employ almost 3 million New Yorkers. And there's a national statistic that after every disaster, over 40% of small businesses fail. So you can already see that if we allow that to happen, just in New York City alone, we're going to have, over 1 million New Yorkers out of work. So there will be and will continue to be funding for the stimulus. It has to be a federal response. Countries like Jamaica and other countries in the West Indies also need to think about how to not only carry businesses during this period of time, but then also figure out the restart. Because you also want to make sure that restaurant is not going to have maximum seating day one once we're able to go out. People are not going to want to go to venues to party. So there's going to be a slow ramp up, which means businesses are going to, and I like the fact that someone else was talking about what else should you be thinking. You need to, if you're in any of these industries where it requires hospitality, where it requires, service, whether you're a barber, or you need to be thinking about retooling your business, probably for the next year or two, because until we get testing or a vaccine, people are just not going to feel comfortable engaging in the way we used to be engaging. And government needs to be there to either help you retool or help you continue by providing subsidies. So we are advocating, I've been advocating for the federal government to continue those subsidies. And certainly I know that, my colleague in Jamaica and elsewhere are also thinking about strategies and how to help small businesses through this time.
Well, let's bring back the minister at this point, because that's the Minister of Industry, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honourable Floyd Green, with respect to the government of Jamaica's stimulus to small businesses, micro enterprises. To what extent have they started to take advantage of the various packages so far?
Yeah, well, as some may be aware, clearly we have rolled out a $10 billion stimulus package. That was, again, in addition to what we had announced initially in relation to our budget. COVID came about the time that we were having our usual budget debates and outlining a new budget. And in that budget, and I think consistently over the last few years, we've really been spending a lot of time trying to remove some of the barriers that affect our small businesses and really hinder their success. So, last year we removed the minimum business tax that each small business used to pay. We also increased our general consumption tax threshold for small businesses so that they would have more resources. They don't pay a general consumption tax before $10 million now, so they can reinvest in the country. In our budget, we did outline a rebate for small businesses that file their tax returns, and that was pre-COVID. And after COVID, we have a subsidy that we give to each small business who apply. We opened that application process a few days ago, and we have had a number of applications. The Minister of Finance, when he closes, will give a full report in relation to how many companies, but I can tell you that we have had good take-up in terms of the small businesses that have applied and that we expect to process so that they will have that support. Clearly, we're going to continuously examine our MSME sector to see what else may be needed, what else we'll do to ensure that they can restart for those who have stopped, and to ensure that they can continue. You know, one of the things that we recognize after outlining the stimulus package, we do have a significant mix in Jamaica where you have those registered small businesses, and then you also have other businesses that operate largely under license, things like our barbers or hairdressers. And one of the things that we looked when we reviewed our stimulus package is that we weren't capturing the full gamut of our small, especially micro businesses. So we expanded the stimulus package to ensure that we brought in what we call the general grant category for those real micro businesses like our hairdressers or barber shops, that they were included. And again, they have been applying thus far. So we will continue to look to see what is needed. One of the challenges that COVID does place on all of us is as my friend from New York was saying, how long will the impact last, and how long will you have to be intervening in the market space? Clearly, we're trying our best to flatten the curve to ensure that we lessen the impact and that we can get back into regular business as quickly as possible. But especially with an island like Jamaica that depends on other markets opening up for a number of our main industries, we recognize that our intervention will have to be for the medium term. So we continue to look, we continue to strategize. Again, we've outlined our initial intervention. The take-up has been good thus far, and that for those who are listening, who are unaware, you can visit wecare.gov.jm. It has a full breakdown on the various forms of intervention, and our stimulus package, our give back, our grants are for all classes, people who've been laid off, and businesses who retain employees. We also give support in that regard, and just general compassionate grants. So wecare.gov.jm, the brochure is there, and also the application is live, so you can apply online.
Thank you very much, Minister Floyd Green. Janine?
I'm here.
Yes, can you take it for a moment as we take a break here on Power 106 FM?
Yes, totally.
I was thinking of going to David Mullings next, just to get a sense of how much should we read into the behavior of the markets, the global markets. Perhaps we could pick up on that point right now. Maybe you could with David Mullings as we go to a break on Power 106.
Thank you, Dar. Mr. Mullings, hello.
Wow. So thank you for that one, Dervin. Throw me the hard ball. I would say, to be honest, it is extremely confusing. If there is anybody that can tell you they understand what is happening in the global markets right now, especially in the US markets, then they are lying. We are seeing volatility that we've never seen. I just saw somebody pointing out today that the S&P 500 is back to where it was December 5th of last year, which just seems very absurd at this point in time. I would say for the next 3 to 6 months, you shouldn't be watching the markets, because people are going to be making a lot of emotional decisions right now. We're not looking at fundamentals, and we're not sure what's really happening. So don't worry so much about the markets. If you are an investor, I subscribe to Michael Leachin's approach of, look for companies domiciled in strong long-term growth industries run by good management. And so we need to be thinking long-term. On the Jamaican side, I would say that we are seeing the market down there moving around, but there are some great opportunities now to get into some companies that we know are going to not only be around after this passes, but they're going to help position Jamaica for a better economy. Let us say, we have to admit, we have to simply agree that the country always needed to diversify away from tourism being such a big part of it. So we have tourism, we have bauxite. You need to be looking at companies like Grace Kennedy, which are global conglomerates, but based in Jamaica. You can buy public stock, good management in place. But let's think about it. Jamaica was importing roughly $800 million worth of food, of agriculture products on a yearly basis. That has now come down significantly, mainly because that food was going to be supplying the tourism industry. So tourism is on pause. Jamaica can now focus on doing more locally and not just growing basic food. We want to move up the value chain, is what we keep saying. So when you are a young person, we tend not to think of farming or getting into that, but technology is a part of that. Look for those kinds of companies, look for those opportunities, because somebody like Grace Kenny is going to buy all the pepper that you can grow. Let's just be honest. And we need to make sure we leverage technology to get smarter. Look for companies that are using technology in a smart way. And don't be afraid to start one of those or find somebody else and then provide your assistance to them. You don't have to start everything. But if you look at the markets every day, you're going to go crazy. I don't look at them every day. I check every few days. But it is weird. I've been conflicted in saying this. I'll say it on here, but I was talking to Dad the other day. He called me to just check in, people are saying, how are you doing? And I said, well, I'm conflicted. And he said, why? And I said, I have friends losing their jobs at all different levels. It doesn't matter if they're VPs or entry level. And in my case, we are net buyers of stocks. Everything we have wanted to purchase on our list for Blue Mahoe's asset base is cheaper. It's 20% to 40% cheaper. We were buying stocks last week in Jamaica. We bought the week before, and I'll be buying this week and next week. So think long-term and focus on where we see this going over 10 years. I think there are some great opportunities to invest.
Thank you for that information, David. I think we'd love to hear something from Xamayla Rose. She is the Deputy Public Advocate in New York of Civic and Community Engagement. Xamayla, are you on the call?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. It is so nice to have you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. We appreciate having you engaging our youth. So, from the New York perspective, what exactly has been happening in your region, and how has your office, the Public Advocate of New York, been working to support communities, especially Jamaican communities in New York?
Sure. First, I just want to say thank you, Janine, so much for inviting us to participate in this conference. I've been listening in to all the other speakers, and it's really been good information. And I really hope that a lot of young people are listening and putting in their questions so that we can answer them later. So at the Office of the Public Advocate, we're responsible for looking at how the city's response to COVID-19 has been. You're hearing me, right?
Yeah, we're hearing you just fine.
Okay, good. What the city's response has been to COVID-19, we've been focusing a lot on ensuring that vulnerable populations are taken care of. So I know that there are many young people listening to this call now. One of the issues that we've been getting a lot is about food. Where can people find food? They're not working, they don't have the income. Where do they go? So we've been telling individuals that, the Department of Education has been providing over 900,000 meals per day at over 400 locations. They can find that information on our website. They can find it on the city's website. They can go to their local schools and pick that up, breakfast and lunch. We've also been kind of taking a look at some of the work that's happening around food delivery and whether or not elders and seniors in our communities are getting these resources. So we've been on these phone calls with different city agencies and different electeds, just making sure that people are taken care of. One of the things that I want to bring up that you actually mentioned earlier, Janine, you spoke a little bit about the census and the fact that you'll be doing something at the end of the month. So as many of you know, census is not necessarily something that's on people's radar right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Right now, everything that's happening is unprecedented. We've never seen any of this before, but we're also in a very big, important year in the United States for those of us who are in the diaspora, especially those of us who are Jamaican. So for those of you who don't know, every 10 years, our country, the United States, actually counts all of the individuals who live in the United States. And that includes those of us who may be from other countries, but live here currently. And it's really important. And I was just looking at some stats. And when I think about the size of the diaspora, right? According to, I think, 2010 records, Jamaicans made up about 10% of all Caribbean and immigrant populations in the United States. So there's about 44.4 million people. We make up about 10% of them. That's a lot of Jamaicans. Period. So it's important that we get counted. What does that mean when we're counted? It means that we get representation. You're going to hear from Congresswoman Yvette Clarke later. She's actually my Congresswoman too. She would not be here, if we did not have representation in our communities. So our office has been working very, very closely with community-based organizations during this critical time to make sure that we are counting the diaspora, that we are including Jamaicans, Trinidadians too, and all the other countries. They're important. And also, people who have English language, limited English language proficiency. But I really, really want to hone in right now today, because right now we're talking to Jamaicans. It's so, so important that you get counted. Our census is not for people who necessarily have citizenship, or if you have a green card, or if you are a DACA recipient or undocumented. It's for anyone who lives here currently in the United States. And so everyone has to fill it out. It's about 10 questions. It really takes about maybe 5 to 10 minutes to fill it out, and it determines how all this money is being spent. So back to our COVID response, for those of you who've been watching, some of you on this call may be from outside of New York State, some of us are from inside New York State. We're in crisis in New York right now. We see that our healthcare system has been challenged for several reasons, including the consistent and perpetual underfunding of our healthcare systems for many, many years, whether we're talking about how we have dealt with healthcare disparities within our communities, within our Black and Brown communities, which includes Afro-Caribbean individuals and Pan-African people, or whether we're talking about how we've treated our immigrants, period, in our healthcare system and the resources that have been made available to them. So what we're doing is we have been calling the public advocate, Jamani Williams, has actually called for racial data on the individuals who have been impacted by COVID-19. So we already know that, we make up, immigrants in our city make up, a portion of the population, but we're more than, people of color are more than 60% of the deaths right now in COVID-19. And we're seeing that across all of the states. Right now, in some states, the Latino population is affected more. In other states, the African-American population or the Black population is affected more. So here right now, we're calling for that data. We're asking for our city to make some of those changes and to provide that information for us and really take a look at it and decide like how we're gonna treat this COVID-19 pandemic. So it's really, really important because it affects all of us. It affects our Jamaican people, the Jamaican diaspora, and also our Black and Brown people who are our neighbors. One of the other things that has been coming up in our office a lot are some of the immigrant young people who may have been recipients of DACA. They may be asylees and other types of protected classes. So right now, the City of New York, not necessarily through our office, but the City of New York is assisting DACA recipients if they are dealing with expiration issues. Right now, some of the courts are closed. We know that the DACA case is scheduled to be determined next week, Monday, and they're going to determine whether or not they end the DACA program, which would be horrible because through many reports, we've seen already that a lot of our young people who have come here early and have gotten their work permits and their work visas, they are currently on the front lines fighting COVID-19 on behalf of all of us, and so we know that the stimulus package did not include them. We know that it only included citizens, and it does not include people who are asylees. It does not include people who are DACA recipients. So we are definitely looking to continue to amplify their voices and raise that concern nationally and also with our city, just to make sure that they're heard and to make sure that we are putting in place other opportunities and funds and resources that can help them. We'll be hosting an immigration forum next week through our office, actually specifically focusing on immigrant New Yorkers, which would include the Jamaican diaspora if they fall into those categories. The other thing that we would like people to know, if you are Jamaican and you are living in New York City right now, some of you may be eligible to vote. And that's really important because we see sometimes when we talk about naturalized immigrants, even though they are eligible to vote, they don't necessarily, they don't always necessarily vote at the same rates that those of us who live here and who are citizens do. So we want to encourage people to do that. We know that COVID-19 has been ravishing our communities, and it's really, really important that we focus on healing, staying healthy, and our own well-being. But it's also important that we recognize that this is a crucial year in the United States. This is a presidential election year in the United States. And if we really want to see movement and changes on the federal level, with how we pertaining to immigration and immigration reform and some of the things that all of us desire, then we also need to make sure that we are participants in the process, in the civic process. So since we have lots of young people watching today, I would just say, if you are eligible and you are in the States and you happen to be Jamaican, register to vote. Register to vote and make sure you go to the polls. In New York State, we've moved our presidential primary for your safety The public advocate, as well as many advocates across the state, have been fighting for this. It has been moved to June 23rd for your safety. We have also implemented we have demanded, and also some other changes have been implemented to ensure your safety so that you can vote by mail, you can vote absentee. So you don't have to necessarily show up there at the poll station. And for the young people who are watching, I just want to let you know, if you are eligible to vote, you are also eligible to be a poll worker, and poll workers get paid. Right now, so many of us are out of work. So it's really, really important that you not just register to vote, but that you take this opportunity to go to the New York State Board of Elections, figure out how to become a poll worker, and then get that money, you know, to help us go through our election process. So those are some of the things that we're working on. Let me see, is there anything else that I left out? I don't think so, but I'm open for questions.
Wait, taking on that point, Xamayla, thank you for your very comprehensive rundown. David Mullings, I would love to go back over to him real quickly. He had some comments on the US Census.
Well, I like what Xamayla was bringing up, and just to hit on that one, not just the voting, but the 2020 census has now started. And so whether or not you're a citizen, you should be counted. And it's important to remember that we can fill in our heritage part. So we can say Jamaican. You don't want to just pick Black or African American. Because what happens is that money in the United States is apportioned at federal and state levels based on how they look at those numbers. So if they only say 30% Black, then they give that money to Black groups, and then we, the immigrant communities, get left out. So we need to self-identify as immigrant and fill out the census. So it's out there now, get more involved.
Absolutely. And when I read that data, that in 2010, that we made up 10% of immigrant populations, I said, I know it's more. I know it's more. I know we make up more than 10% Jamaicans, but you know, those numbers do not exist unless we fill out that document. So he's absolutely correct. And if we could remember and just understand that that money then is used per capita to fund our city. So we have our commissioner here, Gregg Bishop. You know, some of that money is then used to support small businesses and minority-owned businesses. If we're not counted, we're invisible. We don't exist. You know, it's used to fund our hospitals and our healthcare systems. It's used to fund our green jobs and workforce development, in addition to our representation in Congress. So yes, just to chime in, it's so, so important.
Thank you, Xamayla. Thank you, David, for that comment. At this time, I would love to check to see if Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, has she joined as of yet? Congresswoman, have you joined the call? Okay, not as of yet. I would love to go back over to Minister Floyd Green. You have a couple questions from the press which have come up throughout this discussion. So a reporter wanted to know, will the ministry/government of Jamaica be offering any incentives to startups at this time as a way of stimulating economic activity?
All right, thank you. Yep, so even before COVID, I think as a government, we've been grappling with how can we provide more support for our startups. I think we've made advances in helping our micro or medium small enterprises, but we still have challenges for that very early stage. And for a long time, we've been trying to set up a appropriate sort of venture capital facility. We've had various successes with that. I would say it has been a bit slow, but it's something that we've been directly looking and working on. The good news is that we've signed a recent deal with the IDB. We'll be providing us some funding that will largely be targeting not only our micro, small, medium enterprise, but for the first time, we actually have specific funds to target our startups. So in fact, the IDB agreement is to provide US $25 million over the next 5 years. Out of that, I think 11 million US out of that, or about 12 million US out of that 25 million is direct startup funding. That will take different models, looking at very, very early stage startups, but also those who have high growth potential. The Minister of Finance would have announced that new facility is called the Big E program. So for people who want to read up more about it, you can again type into Google Big E, BIGEE, Project Jamaica, and you will see the information and about some of what we plan to do. We expect to start rolling that out this year, so it could not have come at a better time. I think now people being able to acquire funds to start new companies, start new businesses. You know, what you realize, I think David said it, out of every crisis, out of every form of adversity, out of every disaster comes new companies that do extraordinarily well. Because oftentimes crisis disasters bring new problems to solve. And the people who can monetize solving those problems are the people who do very, very well. So we will have some funds to help startups on our Biggie project. I did see another part of the question in relation to reduction in
There's
export
some
fees.
feedback coming from your mic, maybe.
Sorry. Yeah. Reduction in export fees. In fact, we would have just announced that we have reduced our export-related charges under our Commodities Regulatory Authority and our Trade Board by 50%. This was again part of our budget presentation, a part of our overarching stimulus package. It is a significant relief for a number of our exporters or manufacturers. It means the government will be giving up about $120 million in revenue. But more importantly, it means that these companies who are already exporting will be able now to expand and to look to new horizons, to look to new markets, and will have a less burden and barrier for their exportation. So we do hope that more companies will see it as an invitation to export and to export more. Again, we believe now there is a real opportunity, especially across our regional trading bloc, CARICOM. We believe Jamaica is in a better position than a number of countries in relation to our production numbers, especially in relation to agriculture. A lot of the overseas food supply will have delays, will be impacted negatively. We want to fill that gap. We want to stand in that breach. So we've already tasked JAMPRO to look for some of those markets. We have excess produce on our hands now because of the downturn in our hotel sector. It means that the produce that normally go to the hotel sector, we now have it in our fields. So we're looking for new markets. So we're really looking to expand our export footprint. We believe this is an opportunity. And again, we want to take advantage of it.
Thank you so much, Minister Green, for those comments so far. I've noticed that Congresswoman Yvette Clarke just joined our call. Congresswoman, could you come on and say hi for our viewers?
Certainly. Thank you so much. I want to thank Jaya for inviting us as we inform and educate.
Congresswoman, you're on mute. Could you unmute, please? She's unmuting. Okay. Wait, you're mute again. Go one more time, Congresswoman. You're on mute again. Okay. 1 second.
How's that?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Wonderful. Let me thank you for inviting me, Janine, to be a part of today's gathering and conversation about the Jamaican community here in the US and back home in Jamaica and the implications with the onset of the coronavirus. Our community here in the US has been severely impacted by the COVID-19 virus. Unfortunately, many in our communities don't have the luxury of being able to shelter in place because we are at the heart of the essential workforce. And that presents significant challenges for our community, not only for the individuals on the front line, but for the families that they reside with and the communities in which they live. So we're very focused right now on our frontline essential workers in every industry. We are concerned about the undocumented who are also a part of our community. Unfortunately, the CARES Act that was passed in the United States Congress and signed by Donald Trump some 2-3 weeks ago did not make provision for the undocumented, so that if someone does not have a social security number their access to direct benefit and support is extremely limited. We are working right now to get clarification on whether tax ID numbers may be used in lieu of the Social Security number. But for right now, from how we have interpreted what the Trump administration has done, is they have continued in their very mean-spirited anti-immigrant campaign, which keeps all of our communities at risk, because not only are these families at risk of unemployment, of their businesses being shut down, but they're at risk of food insecurity, the inability to make sure that their children are being properly educated, and really, given the fact that we must social distance, the ability to reach out for help in very significant ways. We are relying on our clergy to be a lifeline between our diaspora and the access to resources. However, not all of our people are parts of congregations, and so we're going to have to rely on our nonprofit sector, many who have been of service to our immigrant community over the years, to really penetrate and find those families that we need to undergird, make sure are getting access to healthcare, to food, and to any benefit to which they are entitled, because of, unfortunately, the sentiment of the Trump administration and how they have marginalized and really demonized immigrant communities. And I would say that, unfortunately, that attitude extends beyond those who are here in the US, but to our places of origin overseas. And so it is we're being challenged with getting the proper support from our State Department that we need to extend a lifeline to the people of our hemisphere. As I have been stating to my colleagues in Washington, we will never truly be rid of COVID-19 and the risk to human life that it poses if we are not only stopping the spread here, but stopping the spread in the whole hemisphere, because we travel far too much. We rely on each other far too much for the virus to be eradicated in our lifetime, as long as we're not playing a substantive role in extending a lifeline of support to the nations of the Caribbean, the nations of South and Central America. And so I'm going to stop there, because I'm sure there are many questions, but I want to thank you for extending the invitation for me to be on this program with you this evening, and know that my office is there as a portal for information and support during this time of great crisis in our nation and in our world.
And if someone wants to get in touch with your office, how exactly do they go about that?
So I'm going to provide both landline and social media. Landline is 718-287-1142. And I know that's a landline that transfers to our office staff who are working remotely right now. So anyone within the 9th District of New York, and we support other folks who aren't, we put them in contact with their Congress members, and if we can address the issue, we will do that ourselves. But that is one way of getting on the phone with some folks, because not all of our people have access to social media or to the internet for that matter. I can also be reached through my website, excuse me, which is www.clarke with an E at the end. That's Jamaican Clarke, Clarke with an E at the end, .house.gov.
So clarke.house.gov. That's for our viewers listening on whatever platform you're on. I would love to hand over to my co-host Dervin Malcolm at this time to see if he has any questions for our
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, Congresswoman Clarke. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine, thanks. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Well, I'm just curious as to the extent to which you or other members of your own team are making notes, giving due consideration to all that has been unfolding so far, with a view to bringing to Congress certain policies or initiatives going forward, but from a policy standpoint that could help to put not just where you are in New York, but all of the United States on an even firmer footing in the face of a pandemic such as this one, which is not likely to be the last.
Well, here's what we are endeavoring to do. Right now, we are in an emergency crisis, and the emergency is not over by any stretch. And so we are putting together as much as we can to deal with the public health crisis that exists right now. We've got to get to, particularly, you're hearing about the statistics in the Black community. When you hear about those statistics in the Black community, that means Jamaican community, that means Trini, that means Bayesian, that means Haitian, that means people of African descent who are in crisis right now. So we are really still attending to this crisis while at the same time rolling in relief. So that you've heard about the CARES Act, which then provides the financial support system, if you will. It's temporary for right now. We know we're going to have to do so much more to undergird, because we are demanding people stay at home. We are demanding people not go to work. We have to make sure that their needs are met, for everything from their rent to their mortgage to their utilities to their businesses or companies. That is rolling out simultaneously now. So that is sort of the relief portion. We haven't reached recovery yet, and we haven't reached rebuilding, but we have begun the conversations within the House of Representatives of how to manage this crisis in a way in which we're able to identify industry by industry where we need to support our people. The workers are at the center of all of this. And so we are finding ways to get funding to employers of people, of companies with 500 or less employees, sole proprietors, people who are in the gig economy, people who are self-employed or may own a mom and pop establishment. That is one of the things that, because when you add all of that together, that is the US workforce. And to a large extent, that is the workforce that has been developed in Black communities, in African descendant communities. So we have to undergird that immediately. That we know is not going to hit all of the sweet spots. I already talked to you about one of the areas that it does not cover, and that is our undocumented population. So again, we have to build out a network of organizations, institutions, individuals who will help us in this time of crisis to meet the needs of that segment of the population, to make sure that their needs are covered. We're talking about everything from, unfortunately, funerals and burials to making sure that their children have iPads so that they can continue to learn remotely. From there, we have already begun discussions about how we have to move our nation forward through a massive infrastructure bill. This infrastructure is way overdue, given what we know about the changing dynamics of the world we live in and the needs of the people to meet those challenges in the 21st century. So it's whether we make sure that everyone in the US has access to broadband, we're going to be building out that infrastructure. Whether it is making sure that our people have access to affordable housing, we want to make sure that we are dedicating our efforts coming out of the COVID era into appropriate, affordable housing. We want to make sure that we are giving access to procurement opportunities to communities that have been disparately hit by the COVID virus and who have historically been at the end of any consideration when it comes to economic viability. So there's a lot of work that we are discussing. We are going through phases. We are staying ahead of it. It doesn't help to have a White House that is divergent in terms of priorities, but we are focused as we negotiate, because we have divided government in the US right now, that when there's a need that the Trump administration comes to the House of Representatives for, that we are putting all of our needs on the table for negotiation into what will be a final package moving out.
Thank you, Congresswoman Clarke.
Absolutely.
I have a question from one of our viewers regarding support for persons with disabilities, if there are any stimulus packages available for that. That question also extends to Minister Green if he has the information to speak on it at this time. So, Congresswoman?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that we realized very quickly, and that's part of one of the things that we want to fix, there is going to be a supplemental bill coming out within the next week to the next 2 weeks at best. One of the issues is that in looking for ways in which we can get the financial resources to those in our community, we knew that using both the Internal Revenue Service and Social Security would be one of the greatest portals that we can use, because so much of our population is already connected to those entities in our communities. And those tend to be the people who are most vulnerable. What we didn't realize was that we didn't take into account Social Security disability. And so we're going back in now to fix that, to at least get financial resource and support into the hands of the disabilities community. And we really need to make sure that we are connecting with our organizations that are serving individuals with disabilities, and institutions in our community, like our churches, who may be aware of some of our folks who are residing at home and may not be in communication with their elected officials, so that we can make sure that we're doing wellness checks and that we are making sure that people are being fed and not going hungry, that there's a constant caretaking of that population of our community and those who support them in the household.
Thank you, Congresswoman Clarke. Minister Green, do you have any comments? Or are you able to comment, I should say?
So a couple of things. And let me just say a special good evening to Congresswoman Clarke. It's really good to see you, and thank you for your unwavering support for Jamaicans.
Absolutely.
You're a beacon. So persons with disability can apply under our compassionate grant, which is part of our CARE program. So they are considered. We have also been having some discussions with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. I think akin to what we have done with our PATH program. So PATH is our Social Security Safety Net program. And what we decided to do was to put an additional payment. Normally people get PATH benefits every other month. And we decided during this time period that people would need monthly benefits to be able to get by. And we do have a disability grant through the Ministry of Labor and the Social Security. I think the approach that we're going to be taking is the same that we've taken to the PATH. So where people normally get their disability grants every other month, the intention is to ensure that they get that monthly during this time period. So people who are listening or watching, you can apply under our We Care program to the Compassionate Grant, where you will be processed and you will get some benefit.
Thank you, Minister Green, for that feedback. My moderator, Tiffany Minot, she's our VP of Operations at Jaya. She's letting me know that she has a couple questions from viewers. Tiffany?
I did have a couple questions, but Dervin, before we dive into that, did you have any questions before we went forward?
I don't have any right now.
Oh, it was for Dervin. Okay.
I think he's on a break, maybe.
Okay, perfect. So we'll dive into the questions. A lot of the questions deal with either the stimulus plan or even just businesses, how you guys are going to potentially cooperate or strategically partner to combat some of the issues that we have with COVID. So I'm going to go ahead and present the screen. 1 second.
Okay, so I see that you're sharing the question screen.
Yep, so for the first question, this is actually for Congresswoman Clarke regarding the stimulus. So how does a person ensure that they receive payment if they cannot sign up online and or they don't have a bank account?
Okay, so I'm assuming this person is referring to the direct benefit. One can reach out to the IRS and actually provide for them their deposit information. They can go directly to the IRS's the IRS's website, and I know they're saying if you cannot sign up online, though that the only way or the only pathway we have at the moment for persons to receive the direct benefit is through the IRS. And that means that they must provide either a 2018 or 2019 return. Now, if the IRS does not have your bank account, you can provide it at that time.
So can I jump in here, Congressman, Congresswoman? It's good to see you, of course, and just for all the young people, this is why voting matters. But I just wanted to also let folks know, especially if you don't have a bank account, I know a lot of young people have Cash App, and Cash App 2 days ago announced that they can give you a routing number so that way the stimulus can be deposited into your Cash App account. So just go to cash.app and you'll find more information there in terms of if you're eligible and you don't have a bank account, you can actually get the stimulus deposited into an account on your Cash App.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead to the next question. If I can get to the next question. So this question is actually from Mr. Green. Will the ministry/government of Jamaica be offering any incentives to startups at this time as a way of stimulating the economic activity? I know that you spoke on some of these items before, but if you can highlight some of the ways that the ministry or the government will be providing aid to startups.
Yeah, so just to go over it, just to recap. So we do have, as it is now, presently some support in the stimulus package that we've announced for small businesses who make less than $50 million a year. they get an automatic, once they apply at wecare.gov.jm, they can get a grant during this time. We are looking to help our startups further on in the year, not necessarily COVID related, but I think it could not have come at a better time through the Biggie project, which we've announced, which is an effort with the IDB, where we'll be looking at providing $25 million US, of which about 12 million US will be for startups over the next 5 years to help them leverage their startup ideas to move from idea to actual startups, and for those who have started to move from startups into significant successful operations. So they can look out for the Biggie program. Again, they can check online, they can check the Ministry of Finance, that website, that has information about our deal with the IDB and how we'll help startups going forward.
Can we bring back into the discussion at this time? Thank you, Minister. Let's bring back into the discussion at this time the Chief Operating Officer of Grace Kennedy Financial Group. That's of course Stephen Whittingham. Stephen Whittingham, what can you tell us with respect to how, based on your experience as a major international Jamaican international business, how you're established in different countries, Jamaica, the UK, Canada, Ghana, etc. Based on what has transpired with respect to the supply chain at this time, as far as goods are concerned, moving from country to country, etc. Are there particular things that we need to pay attention to in order to minimize the fallout in times of crisis? Again, we're just trying to see what are we learning as things are unfolding. And
yes.
In particular, sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, so Dervan, that's a great question. So I think one of the things that has been impacted the most in this whole experience, I mean, other than people and their inability to move around, has been the supply chain for global businesses. And just to reference really what Minister Green had been talking about, this is really an opportunity for countries like Jamaica to establish themselves as exporters to markets that are near shore. So for example, if you are a business in New York and you are importing products from the Far East, and you could be importing that product from Jamaica, which is an hour or two by flight, or a short trip by sea, it really changes the dynamics in terms of what supply chain logistics should look like. And should you not have alternate supply chains in smaller markets like Jamaica? We've seen this in the business outsourcing sector, right? This is the whole reason why we've had such growth in Jamaica, because of this ability to provide the service near shore, and logistics chains are no different, because I can tell you, we have not had as a company major issues with our supply chain, but there are lots of companies that have been having issues, because this experience has taught us, we talk about globalization, we talk about the ability to do business all over the world, but in all of this inherently are some assumptions that have never been tested before, like the free movement of goods and people. We just never anticipated that these types of things would come under pressure. And now that it has happened, we're now going to start to see the impact of it. And I'm telling you, exporting is a big thing for Jamaica. Grace Kennedy, we opened a factory in Denby last year, and the sole purpose of that factory is to provide products for export to the United States through our distribution chain. Most of the products that are sold in the cold and chill section in supermarkets like Publix and Walmart, but the idea is really to leverage the fact that we are so close to those markets to really take advantage of the fact that we have farmers that are able to produce world-class products and move them to markets where people want them. And supply chain logistics, I agree, Dervan, it's a really critical part of how we're going to be able to move forward as a country.
Thank you for that, Stephen Whittingham. At this moment, Gregg Bishop, Commissioner for the New York State Department of Human Services, has to hop off for another town hall that he has to attend. Mr. Bishop, we at JAIA want to express our sincere gratitude for joining us on this call and providing young people with information that they so desperately needed. Best of luck at your town hall, and thank you for being on our program.
Thanks for having me. And of course, thank you not only to the diaspora, but to everyone in Jamaica and the entire Caribbean. I'm an immigrant from Grenada. It's so important for us to be active in government for this time, because this is where we are making policy that will impact our communities. So for every young person that's listening, I also want to say, consider a career in government because we need voices. We need smart people. We need innovative people to also be in our seats to help lead the recovery and to deal with any future pandemics or any future challenges ahead of us. So thank you for having me, and have a good night. And of course, Congresswoman Clarke, I'll see you on Friday.
See you then.
Thank you. Dervon, are you back or are you? Oh, Dervon is on mute. Okay, I guess we'll give you an ad. At this time.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go right ahead. Would you like to, do you have any questions for our panelists at this time from your Power 106 viewers?
Right. Well, before I do that, can I just get in a question to the our advocate, Xamayla Rose, in terms of your deputy public advocate of New York. Now would be a good time, it seems to me, based on what we have seen, heard, and experienced so far, to advocate. Are there, within what parameters can you advocate? How far does your advocacy go?
Sure. So thank you so much, Dervon, for the question. I am Deputy Public Advocate of Civic and Community Empowerment at the Office of the Public Advocate. But we, of course, our role is primarily focused on the city of New York, but that does not stop us from using our bully pulpit to demand changes on both the city, the state, and federal level. We, when possible, we also work with our congressional member, Yvette Clarke, and many of the other New York delegation representatives on, looking at policies and calling for different things, especially pertaining ICE raids and things that have happened recently during the COVID pandemic, which was unfortunate, when families are all locked in, we're all on lockdown. The federal government said that they would stop, the ICE raids or scale back the ICE raids, and that's not really what we have been seeing. So we are accustomed to working across all political realms, whether it's Congress, state, city council, or even just with our local advocates and our advocacy networks. So one of the things that we have that we released about a week and a half ago was our COVID response and recovery report, where we outline not only just the issues that we are identifying that's happening in the city of New York, but then we also identify some solutions that we can present moving forward. We also just recently called for a task force for our mayor to develop a task force that would look at the disparate effects of COVID-19 on Pan-African communities, as well as Latino, our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters who are in New York City. Again, I had mentioned earlier that 60% of those who have died from COVID-19 are Black and Brown individuals. Of course, that would encompass our Jamaican brothers and sisters, as well as other Caribbean nationals. So we are very much on the front lines as the police and or like the person who polices city agencies and the watchdog for the city of New York. They can hear from us all the time, and we are sure and we are aggressive in our response to this COVID-19 pandemic. It's unfortunate, we're doing this. Many of us have lost, so far 2 of my coworkers have lost a parent. So we're doing this work, not just because it's our job, but also because we know that once we're able to push change, it also affects us as well. So everybody, we're all in this together. We're fighting on behalf of all New Yorkers. And we see that in other states, this is happening as well. So we're on the front lines with you.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing a question here from Othen Karib. Questions for the Congresswoman. Can increased stimulus to NGO non-profit sector be addressed to provide support for the immigrant community, especially those undocumented?
So one of the things that we have been discussing is that part of this has to do with the innovative nature of our nonprofit sector. And oftentimes people don't realize, but our faith community, for the most part, are also nonprofit. As long as our nonprofit organizations are servicing COVID-related social causes, whether it's food banks, whether it's helping to give guidance in terms of where to receive adequate health care, how to fill out the requirements for the benefits that are available to small business, to individuals, they can retain a workforce. They can apply for the forgivable loan program through the SBA. And at the end, as long as they retain their workforce, their loan becomes forgivable. That's a way for us to maintain employment in our communities during a time when so many are being laid off. So that is one pathway that I believe enables us to be creative enough to stitch together a network of sort of safety net services that will help our undocumented brothers and sisters to navigate a process by which they can receive the basic necessities to sort of hold on. Some of these families are blended. We know in our immigrant families, someone is a citizen, someone is a resident. Both of those individuals are eligible for every provision within the CARES Act. It's only those who don't lack a social security number. And like I said, stay tuned. We are working on getting those who may have a tax ID number to get access to these benefits, because they're already paying taxes to the federal government. They're paying taxes to their state and local governments. They should be receiving a benefit as a result of that. And their payment is documented. So stay tuned for that. But I really want to encourage us as a community to use our innovative spirit to create spaces and places and services that will undergird our undocumented population.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Congresswoman Clarke. Can we bring back Mair Holness? Are you still with us?
Mair Holness, are you there? Let me call you right back. I'm back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mair Holness.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for rejoining us here on the call. Can you give us a sense of the roadmap out of this COVID-19 scenario here, there in Broward County? What's the roadmap? Is it a classic case of stopping the hemorrhaging first, stopping the bleeding, stabilizing the patient, and then working from there? Or are you already looking ahead?
So it's funny you to ask that. This morning, Governor DeSantis called me and asked that I be a part of the task force that would look at when and how we restart the economy. And while I left you on the call here, I was on the phone with Dr. Tachi, who runs the Broward Health Department, with a conversation of what it looks like for us. We're at the point where we're flattened out in Broward County now. We don't see that steep climb anymore with new cases. So the next thing that I'm going to be looking for is, are we having much less new cases? And I think we're about at that point. So we have to plan a way as to how we go forward. One of the things that we must do more of is more testing. And in my conversation just now with Dr. Tachi, we're going to set up 2 additional testing sites in Broward County. And these are sites that's going to be in the African-American communities because we know the disparity. Broward County's disparity and the state of Florida is not as dramatic as the rest of the country. In Broward County, Black population makes up 30% of our population and 33% of the cases that we have. So there's a disparity, but not huge. So we're going to target these communities now, but also the broader amount of testing that we have, the more likely we're able to then get the folks who are positive isolated and out of the workforce, so we don't have continued cases develop in Broward County. And part of what we must do is gradual. We have to do this gradually. One of the problem with this pandemic is really hurting the lower income people more so than anyone else. And I know that I must thank Congresswoman for doing what she did in Washington to ensure that those funds that were being allocated reached small businesses and individuals more so than the largest corporation. You're to be commended for the fight that I know you and other members of the House and the Black Caucus put up to ensure that we're in that space. So it has to be gradual in my mind. One, we still need to practice social distancing even if we open up. Part of my conversation is, let's say, for example, restaurants, maybe do half of their capacity so that there can be social distancing there. Continue to wear the masks that we have now mandated in Broward County when you're in the public and when you're being served by folks in the public. But at some point in time, we need to gradually start getting out of this. Our airport is practically no passengers, and tourism is a big piece of our economy here in Broward County, as with the state of Florida. Almost 20% of our workforce works in the hospitality industry, 16% directly connected to tourism. So we're going to have to find a way to restart at some point in time. But again, we can't just jump out there and do it without making sure science is on our side and that we take the precautions that are necessary so that we don't see a huge spike again once we open up.
Thank you, Mayor Holness. I have a question for my group of entrepreneurs on this panel now. So I'll start with Dominic since he's a young entrepreneur on this panel. So we talk a lot about corporate social responsibility and giving back in this crisis. So Dade Abroad being a Caribbean platform, how exactly have you been working with community partners to cause social impacts in this time?
Okay, so because Dade Abroad was built to create wealth for the Caribbean community, as the Congresswoman mentioned earlier, we encourage our people to get a tax ID. We also encourage our people to get, especially in New York City, to get also a New York City ID. In terms of offering opportunities for them, I don't know if I can really say undocumented, but we have created a means where they can sustain themselves as a community. First, as a nonprofit, we're offering opportunities through the restaurants, and the restaurants are willing to offer, as I mentioned, dinner to members of the community. Because by research and speak to Xamayla, my understanding is that the Department of Education offers a free breakfast and lunch, but there's no dinner being offered to the community. So we at Dade Abroad is working with the restaurants where they can offer free hot plates to the community and also free hot plates to essential workers. And in return, the restaurant employees who are laid off, whether they're undocumented or off the books, waiters and waitresses, they now can do the delivery through our platform. So it will work similar to Uber Eats and DoorDash, but it's more of a community-based delivery platform where we're hoping that we need to encourage our people to sign up, that we can offer some type of opportunities for them can sustain themselves. So the first approach we have now is the delivery. And as we grow, we'll try to find ways where we can assist, for example, help, for example, barbershops and beauty salons in our community. But for now, since the restaurant has a huge amount of Caribbean employees, that's where we're starting with our nonprofit with the delivery programs for the Caribbean community.
Thank you so much, Dominic. I'm handing over to Stephen Whittingham from Grace Kennedy. Do you have any current projects at Grace Kennedy that are being undertaken to support Jamaican communities during this time, both locally and abroad, if you can speak on them?
Yeah, and absolutely. So it's been a really challenging time for people all over in all of our markets. We've for Ground Zero, which is in Jamaica for us. We've been really ensuring that our food supply chain has been able to provide the needs of the Jamaican public through our food business and through our retail business, Hilo. That's really been a critical or essential service, and we're very proud of how the team has responded and has been able to meet the needs of the population. We've also been doing things like supporting the various areas of quarantine through the donation of food and beverages. So if areas were quarantined, or even the soldiers or police that are supporting those areas, we've been donating food. And that's been, we think, a very important part of how we've been able to contribute. One thing is, students at the university. It's a very vulnerable population. They have been, a lot of times money is an issue for them. And we have a food bank that we run at the university that has been continuing to feed some of those students. And it's something that we're very proud of because it's been a big area of focus for us. And lastly, I think, the big thing is the movement of resources during this time. And things like remittance, which make up 16% of Jamaica's GDP, becomes even more important when things like tourism, which directly makes up under 20% and indirectly makes up over 30% of our economy. Just ensuring that the remittances through our Western Union network are able to operate not only in Jamaica, but through the rest of the Caribbean has been a major area of focus for us as well. So those are just some of the things that come to mind about how we've been able to contribute during this time. But I just want to also say that, we talk about business and we talk about government, but I don't think we can underestimate the mental or the psychological impact that this COVID-19 pandemic has been having on people. They've been having to stay at home. They've been having to change their lives. And I think, just this whole notion of Grace Kennedy, we care, and how all of our businesses interact with people. It's really at times like this when you have to go to the supermarket, there are social distancing programs in place. When you have problems or commercial issues that you're trying to address and you need help from one of our services, on our team members, I think the embedding of we care in the Jamaican in the Jamaican community in Jamaica, as well as Diaspora, by the Grace Kennedy team has been a big difference in terms of how we have been able to relate and support our customers, our employees, and their families. You're on mute, Janine.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Whittingham. Still navigating this whole online press conference things. Thank you so much to our viewers for bearing with me. Heading over to Mr. David Mullings. Do you have any comments on the investment standpoint? Like, how have you been helping out young Jamaicans in this time?
Well, so in my case, there are two main things we're doing right now. One of them is a website called fundblackfounders.com. This is a crowdfunding website that's rewards-based. I joined their board of directors last month. This was already in train, but we were working on doing some free online sessions for entrepreneurs to be able to understand fundraising, readjusting your business, pivoting, getting through these times, thinking long term. So that's been a lot of fun working with Renee King and her team. So that's easy, fundblackfounders.com. And that's going to be great. And then the second one, I keep checking my email, and I don't want to get it wrong. But I was part of the venture capital program that the Development Bank of Jamaica launched. And I was glad when Minister Green brought up that program. We actually have an opening right now. There's an application window that's open for the DBJ Venture Capital Mentors Program. It was just added to the board of directors, well, the board of advisors. We're doing two things. First, we're accepting proposals from entrepreneurs. 12 of them will be accepted. It's roughly a one-year program, 1 million Jamaican per entrepreneur to help them grow their business. This is more for startups and early stage. And they get mentors. The second thing, though, that we're going to need is mentors and advisors from here in the diaspora who would like to give back and support these businesses, helping these young entrepreneurs scale. So I'm supposed to help them pull some people mainly from the US side of the diaspora. I look forward to helping to build that out and directly supporting Jamaican entrepreneurs on the road.
Thank you, Mr. Mullings. I would like to hand over to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke at this time. I know that she has to run out to another call. Do you have some closing remarks for the viewers at this time?
Well, let me thank Janine and the Jaya organization. Jamaican youth are doing big things, and I'm just happy to that we have connected in this way so that we can give guidance to our folks during this crisis and beyond. I look forward to further conversations, and again, you can connect with my office either at 718-287-1142 or at www.clarke.house.gov, which is my website. Or you can also follow me on my social media, and that's at Rep Yvette Clarke, one word. That's at Rep Yvette Clarke at one word. And let me thank all of your panelists for bringing their expertise to bear. I share with folks all the time, you never stop learning, and hearing from one another inspires one another to go out and do everything that we can to make our people whole and to take them safely and securely through this crisis, coming through on the other side more resilient and stronger than ever. Again, I want to extend my most profound condolences to those who have lost loved ones, friends, and associates to this COVID pandemic. And let folks know that we have to pick up the baton and the legacy of those who have been so impactful in our lives, that we have to be strong and unified in making sure that as we come through this crisis, that our talent, skill, and expertise is brought to bear in making stronger, more resilient communities in the days, years, and decades to come. So let me thank you once again, Janine, and everyone. Please stay safe, stay home, and we'll be all right.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
One
I
love.
would love to hand over to some of the other panelists. We'll start with Minister Green to tell viewers how exactly they can connect with you after this crisis, 30 seconds or less. What some way, like someone can reach out to you if they're passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, so please feel free to reach out to me via social media. I'm on most platforms, Floyd Green JA. That's on Twitter and that's on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, Floyd Green Southwest St. Elizabeth on Facebook. And you can also email me directly at fogreen@micaf.gov.jm. Thank you to the really enterprising group of young people. Thank you, Janine. I think this is a great initiative. And of course, thanks to Durban and the Power 106 team, he will tell you that St. Elizabeth is the best place on earth. But more importantly, thank you to all your panelists. It's so great to see Jamaicans home and abroad doing so well and trying to ensure that despite the difficulty that we're coming together, I genuinely believe that we will emerge stronger. I think now more than ever, the world needs Jamaicans because we are the heartbeat of the world. And if the world ever needed its heartbeat, it's right now. So let's bond together, let's stay safe, let's stay inside, and I know we will be better off after all of this. This has been fun, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Floyd. Can we head over to Xamayla for her to share quickly how people can reach out to you if they want more information or just to know what you're doing?
Sure. To be really quick, just if there are any issues and you are a young Jamaican or a young person in New York City and you need to reach out to our office to advocate on your behalf, feel free to email us at gethelp@advocate.nyc.gov. That is our line, our email address that's staffed by more than 10 of our professionals who are working to help people navigate some of the bureaucracy in New York City during the COVID-19 pandemic. I also want to remind you all to visit my2020census.gov. That is the link that you can go to complete your census form, check off your race, and then write in Jamaica as the place where you come from. So just wanted to drop that really quickly. And then lastly, I really wanted to just yield the rest of my time to say thank you, Janine, thank you to Jaya, thank you to all the other panelists. I really appreciated hearing all of the resources that you had to give. And because we were talking so much about business resources, I would be remiss if I did not recognize one of my mentors, who is actually Dr. Roy Hastick. He is not Jamaican, he's from Grenada, but he's the founder of the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he recently passed from COVID-19, and he's been a pillar in the Caribbean community for more than 30 years. So on that note, I just want to say everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and I wish you and your families all the best, and keep fighting.
Thank you so much, Xamayla. I would love to hand over to Mair Holness. Could you share with viewers how they can reach out to you post this panel?
First, let me thank you, Janine, for the great work you've done. I believe Jamaica's future is in great hands. I see a lot of young people engaged, and that gives my heart a great joy to see that we're really having a new generation coming forward that will probably even do better than us that are ahead of you. To reach me, you may go to my website is daleholness.com, or email me at dholness@broward.org. dholness@broward.org, or my website, daleholness.com.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Whittingham, do you have any way people can reach out to you or Grace Kennedy or anything of the sort?
Sure. So, I mean, my email address is stephen.whittingham@gkco.com. You can also just reach out to us at the Grace Kennedy, from the Grace Kennedy website. It's always easy to reach out to and find any executive there, or LinkedIn. I know a lot of young people use LinkedIn. That's also an easy way to reach me as well. I think thanks to everyone for allowing us to participate today. I think it's been a great session.
Thank you, thank you. Can I go to the comments really quickly to share quickly how people can...
And then Janine, you just have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can David share quickly how questions, how people can reach out to you if they have any questions?
All right, well, echoing the sentiment of everyone, glad to see some people that I already know, and then some new people on here as well sharing information. For me, it's easy. BlueMahoeCapital.com is a company website. I'm David at BlueMahoeCapital.com. If you can't spell Mahoe, you can go to DavidMullings.com, and easily find me on Twitter is at David Mullings, Mullings, the Jamaican spelling, not the American spelling. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And Dominic, Christopher, are you still on the line?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Could you share how people can reach out to you?
Sure. Day Abroad is on all social media platforms. You just have to do DEH Abroad, and you're able to find us. Even if you do a Google search, DEA Abroad, DEA Abroad, you're able to find us. And we also integrated a way that you guys can WhatsApp us for information, and it's relatively easy. It's a 1877 Day Abroad.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
So before we close out, I would just like to thank everyone who made this entire thing possible. I would love to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade for supporting us in this initiative and the various consulates that came on board for this project. I would love to thank the RGR Communications Group, that's Part 106, the Jamaica Greener for backing this initiative. I would also like to make mention of the U.S. Embassy. Thank you so much for supporting this project. I would also like to highlight Pure Jamaica, Proud Jamaica, and Jamaicans.com for giving us young people the chance to use your platforms and spread good information. I would also like to highlight the Office of the Public Advocate of New York. We thank you so much for your support in this initiative. The Office of Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, the Office of Mair Holness of Broward County, Florida. We thank all of you for giving your time to come on and answer questions that young people have. I would also like to make mention of other media outlets. That's from JIS, Street Hype, Caribbean Life News. I would love to thank you guys for the time that you dedicated to this panel. I would also like to highlight business partners. That's Grace Kennedy, Blue Mahoe Capital, and Day Abroad for coming on and sharing your insights on the economy, investment, and business for young entrepreneurs and young investors. They are very grateful, I can assure you. So thank you so very much to everyone who has contributed. Thank you so much, Dervon, my co-host, for allowing this to even happen. And we are very grateful to his viewers as well for tuning in and being engaged. So that's my piece. I'll hand over to Dervon for him to close his own show.
So already, both sides of the story on 4106 for the day, but this has been really very exciting, actually. Notwithstanding the somber moments of the times, it really gives us hope that we can still keep in touch. We can still get a hold of key proponents of various sectors of the society, or respective societies, or global society, because we're one big global family. If ever we needed a reminder, here's a big reminder that we really need to recognize our humanity and what should be our humanity to man, as opposed to the opposite. Just to recognize that we are indeed the world, to borrow the line from that famous song that was made years ago. But thank you very much, Janine Shepherd. You are quite, I can't call you a pocket rocket like Shelley and Fraser Price. But,
I wish I was like Shelley and Fraser.
I'm not sure what the pocket part, because you have a bit of height there over Shelley and, but you certainly pack a powerful punch, no question about that, in terms of the quality of your work and your interest at home and abroad. Dale Holness, Mair Holness, just looking at you online, I'm thinking, you must be the coolest guy in town. I mean, you're just so cool. And I'm thinking, that's the kind of cool that we perhaps need to take us through these warm waters, in a manner of speaking. But well done to you. David, as usual, you're all over social media, so we can always find you. Thank you very much, Tiffany Minot, our panel coordinator. Great pleasure working with you. Thank you very much. Stephen Whittingham, keep those Grace products coming. We need to we need to make sure that we have enough so that we can ride out this storm. Thank you very much, Stephen Whittingham and the team at Grace. Xamayla Rose, thank you. Nice to have met you. All the very best to you as well. And Dominic Christopher, who has done some work behind the scenes as well. All the best to you and your respective brands.
Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I'll get used to it eventually. But thank you very much, Janine. Thanks, everybody. Please continue to be safe, and let's keep in touch. I'm always happy to hear from you. I have other platforms that we can have you on at any time. I am just Google Dervan Malcolm and everything will pop up. It's very easy to find. DERVAN MALCOLM. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Instagram, the whole works. So please feel free to keep in touch. And again, Janine, thank you so much for your vote of confidence. Thanks for having me on with you, co-hosting this afternoon. It's been a pleasure.
Thanking me, I should be thanking you. Yes, but like on that point, you guys can also reach out to me on Instagram at Shepherd Janine, SHEPHERD, Janine, JENINE, at Shepherd Janine. Reach out to me anytime. I'm available to answer any questions or at least point you in the right direction.
Thank you. I think that's it.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of the afternoon into evening. All the best.
Yes.
Take care. Well done, everybody.